This conference will now be recorded.
Perfect. My name is Paul Lamert. I'm the senior trainer here at TeslaLink. As I said, today we're going to be going over the customer view. So not just TeslaLink customers, but our customers' customers, how the site looks for them and the different ways that they can get to the information, to specifically their information. So the screen that you see right now is a screen that a free user would have. This is a user that does not have access to update or create information, only to view, browse, download, and run reports. This is the most common view for them. And like I said, this specifically is the web version. However, we do also have a version for mobile and for desktop, which I will be going over as well. So the first thing on here, and the most common thing, would be to find the asset of the customer is looking for. So if you, on this left-hand side, go over to Asset Management and to Assets, you have the same search screen that the TeslaLink customers have. You have several different ways to search for the information. If you have an asset number or a serial number, that's always going to be the most direct and the best way for you to find the asset that you're looking for. However, if you don't, you can definitely narrow it down from there as well. For instance, by the description or by using tags on here. So if I know that, for instance, I'm doing something that is with frac iron, I can put in the tag frac iron, and then when I search, that particular one does not have any. But when I search for different, let's see, let's try doing just a regular sling. When I try searching for a particular tag, if I know that that has it in here, then it's going to bring up all the different assets with that tag. So if, for instance, I did not know the asset number or serial number, but I knew I was looking at a sling, I can at least put that in and it'll narrow it down a little bit on the search results. Now, once you have the asset that you're looking for, you can go into view the information here. So for instance, I can go down to this one here, click on details, and get access to all the information about this particular asset. So we have the asset number and the serial number. We have the owner, which is going to be the customer in this case. They'll only have access to their own information. So they're always going to be the owner of every asset that they're able to see in a standard setup. Additionally, we have the model number and part number and the description of the item, any tags or manufacturer, and then any dates that might be associated with it. For instance, when it was manufactured or when it might expire. Beyond that, we also have the different attributes for it. So in this case, this particular asset only has two attributes, the capacity and the diameter. But depending on how much information the creator of the asset has put down here, you could have anywhere from 0 to 20 or 30 different attributes on here describing extra information about this. As a customer, I can also look at the schedules and see what schedules are currently set up for and the different forms that are supposed to be filled out for this particular asset, as well as what has been filled out in the past. So under completed work here, I'm able to see the forms that have been filled. In this case, both a visual inspection and a UT test have been performed on the 18th, so yesterday, by Paul with a result of pass. And so it makes it very easy to see what's going on there. Now, if I want to dive into one of these, if for instance one of them failed and I wanted to understand more about it, I could click on the details button here on form detail, and it will bring me into the form itself and show me all the answers. In this case, nothing was filled out on the actual form, so let's go back actually and see if the other one has any more information. Here we go. So on this visual inspection, you can see we have the comments and what gauge they used. They didn't fill out who it was inspected by or the test date, although we do have that information up at the top here. If I go to form details, you'll see it was performed by Paul Prod, and the completion date was 3/18. So we're able to look into all the information for this particular asset. If I want to look up a cert for this asset, I can actually do that as well. So let's find an asset that has a pressure test that has been performed for it. In order to look up a particular form, I can go over on this left-hand side to forms and go to form summary. Now this is going to list every form that has been filled out for all of my assets as a customer. I want to narrow that down, so I can change the form template here. It looks like we only have two on this particular one. So let's scroll through and we can find a pressure test here. Now when I go into the details, if I go to attachments, I can actually pull up the PDF right here. It'll download for me on this one. And you can see we have our one-page cert that shows everything here. Now, if I want to do that on something besides mobile, besides the web, I can do it on mobile. So let me go ahead and pull that up for you here. As a customer, the first thing, actually, let me close it out completely. The first thing I'm going to do is launch the app. This is the app that can be found in the App Store. And at this point, I'm going to log in. So I'm using example user 2 here. It's going to ask for my PIN. I can go ahead and enter that and confirm. And it's going to bring up this home screen for me. So at this point, I want to look at one of my assets. So I can click on Assets here. And if I'm looking for a particular one, I can put in my asset number or my serial number, or I can use the different boxes down here to narrow it down just like I did on the web, using description, using whatever information that I have. In this case, I'm just going to click on search with nothing entered. That way it shows all of my different assets. Here we go. So if I look through and find, for instance, we can use this one here. It's going to list out all the information, same as before. So you can see we have the asset number, we have the serial number, description, so on and so forth. If I want to see the attributes for mobile, I can use this blue bar up at the top, which scrolls from right to left. And I can click on attributes, and it'll pop up with the 2 attributes here, similar to what we saw online. Now for this particular one, mobile has been specifically designed to make it easier for you to get your certs. So after you find your asset here, you'll notice I now have a button that says Get Iron Cert Report. Depending on the company that you're working with, you might have Get Iron Cert Report, or you might have Get Completed Ops Form Report. That's going to be completely dependent on that, and you can contact the tenant administrator if you need that to change. In this case, I can go ahead and click on that button, and it's going to bring up the Iron Cert, which is a form that has a report that has multiple forms in it. So in this case, you can see we have up at the top the general information about it, as well as below the pressure test. So depending on how many forms they've filled out about this, it'll display a different number of forms on this report. The most common ones are going to be your visual test, your UT readings, mag particle, a final inspection, and a pressure test here. So you can see in this case, we just have the pressure test done, and that's the only one it lists. If there are multiple, it will list all of them on the same page. So it makes it very easy for you to get into your into the certs that you need to find. You'll notice as a customer, we also have this reorder button up at the top. If reorder is set up for your account, you're able to click on that button and then choose your the person that you're going to be sending this reorder request to. So we would put in our number here. We'd put in whatever our quantity is, and then choose our reorder contact. If this is blank, like you see right now, that means that a reorder contact has not been set up for you, so you won't be able to use this functionality. Again, if that happens, just contact your tenant administrator, and they'll be happy to help you set that up so you can use reorder. Again, looking on the web, the other major functionality that we have is the ability to run reports. So if I go over to reports here and choose forms, this allows me to run reports on multiple assets at the same time, or more specifically, multiple forms at the same time. So under report name, if I click, I get 3 different ones by default. Summarized is going to be an overhead view of things that passed versus failed. It won't dig into the details of each of those, but it'll at least let you know this many passed, this many failed, and here's why the ones that failed did fail. Completed ops form details, on the other hand, is going to list out all the individual fields. So before, where we had, for instance, the gauge number and any comments, that will show up in completed ops form details, but will not show up in summarized. So let's run a summarized report. In this case, I'm going to run it for all of my forms, but if I wanted to narrow it down by job number or by customer number, I could definitely do that right here. If I only wanted to see the ones that passed or failed, I could do so right here. You have a lot of different filter options to narrow down your search results. So let's go ahead and generate this report. You'll notice it's going to bring me to this page. It's going to continue to say running until I refresh it and it has finished processing. So if I click refresh here, you'll notice now it's completed. Let me go ahead and download this report so we can see what it looks like. It's going to list a general overview of what I ran the report on. And if I scroll down, it'll give me a list of exactly what's happening inside this report. So you can see in this particular one, we have 4 that are still in progress, 49 that passed, 2 that failed, and 4 that are just marked as complete. As I scroll down, it's going to list out the search result, or sorry, it's going to list out the result of the form, as well as which form it was, all the way down. So you can see we have a bunch of passes, a complete here, and then we should have a fail further down as we scroll through. We only had 4 fails in here total. Here we go. So this particular one failed. Now, if we want to see why, we can scroll all the way down to the very end. And at the very end, we have what is called a discrepancy report. So this lists why certain things failed. If there was anything that was marked as fail, any individual field marked as fail, then it will show up right here. So you can see in this case, we marked the hand chain status as failed, and they included a picture. That picture in this case is not relevant, but normally it would be a picture of why it failed. And then there's room for comments as well, in case they needed to explain what is going on in that picture. So as a customer, we have the ability to run reports. We have the ability to find our assets within this asset search page, as well as viewing information about those particular assets, both in attributes and in the general information up at the top. We can look at completed work, both when it was performed, who performed it, and we can jump into the form details if we need to understand it better. And then we also have the additional functionality on mobile here, to find our assets and to get the certifications very quickly on here. Do we have any questions on what a customer is able to do?
No. Except for the reorder function. For the reorder function, what exactly is that for? Is that for them to reorder things that are due, or to order new products?
This would be to order new products. So for instance,
so they can order new product through there.
Exactly. Yeah, if you had something that, for instance, it was a sling or something that failed, it was unfortunately beyond repair, and so they look through, they run a report, they see that this failed, they go into the asset like you see right here, and they can go, this one's messed up, we need to reorder. So up at the top, they would be able to click reorder, and instead of calling you and having to try and describe, this looks like maybe it's a 2-inch by 20 foot, but I don't really know, kind of going back and forth on that, they can just say, this is the asset that failed, and I want to order however many of them, 5 new ones.
Okay, so it pretty much helps with more complicated items that need
Exactly,
to be
yes.
remade. Okay. Yeah, and I think that's the only question I have.
All right, perfect. In that case, like I said, this will be going up on YouTube later on today, and we'll be sending it out if anybody needs or wants it. Just send us an email and we will send it over to you. Otherwise, it'll be posted on the YouTube channel for everybody to access. If you do have any other questions about other things in the future, feel free to send us an email and we will be happy to work through it with you.
All right. Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.